Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. Today I am doing a review of the final Strife, Book 1 in the Ending Fire trilogy. This is the first in an adult fantasy trilogy. In this book, we're in a kingdom that has a caste system based on the color of people's blood. First we have Embers at the top who have red blood, Dusters in the middle with blue blood, and then Ghostings are sort of treated as the bottom of the totem pole due to their clear blood. We're also following three main characters, Scylla, who has been through quite a bit of trauma, and we sort of see her coping, just not in a very healthy way. We have Nor, who is the daughter of one of the most powerful people in the kingdom, and then Hassa, who is typically treated like she's invisible due to her status, but uses that to her advantage. So we follow these three women as the kingdom is gearing up for the Actibar, which is a trial competition that takes place every 10 years to determine the next disciples. The disciples are chosen and pretty much are mentees to the wardens, and the wardens are the rulers of the empire. So every 10 years there is an Actibar to choose the next disciples. That's all I'm going to say really about the synopsis, because the actual synopsis on the book is pretty vague, and I like that about it because I think it's best to go into this not really knowing too much. I will say though, I did end up rating this 4.5 stars. I did really enjoy it. I also requested an arc of book 2, the Battle Drum. Even if I don't get the arc, I will definitely pre-order the next book because I am really excited to see what happens. Less than an hour after filming, here we go. This book also has one of the most beautiful maps that I've ever seen, so I will be sure to include a little snippet of that. I will also say that if you have a physical copy of this, I have the physical hardcover. There is an extra scene at the back of the book, and it's not included in the audiobook, but the extra scene was actually quite interesting, so highly recommend if you are getting a physical copy. One thing that I did specifically enjoy about this book is that there is plenty of LGBTQ rep, and gender affirming medicines and surgeries are readily available and not at all questioned, so definitely appreciate that. I also do want to run through a list of content warnings for anyone who may need them. And it's possible that I could be missing some things, but I tried to write them down as they came up as I was reading. So there is drug use and addiction, kidnapping, torture, death of a family member, child abuse, fat shaming, murder. That is what I have written down. There may be a few other things, so please be sure to look into that beforehand if you are going to read this book. So that's all that I can say without spoiling anything. If you have not yet read the final Strife but are planning to, this is your official spoiler warning. Okay, so as per usual, I will start with the characters, starting off with Scylla. I don't dislike Scylla. I think that I just needed to get past where she was in the beginning of the book. A lot of people have mentioned the first 85 pages of this book is us just following Scylla while she's high as a kite and looking for more drugs. So if drug use is something that you do not want to see, absolutely take that into account and be careful. But once she gets past that, I didn't dislike her, so she does get better in my opinion. Then we have Nor. She is annoying as fuck. She remains annoying pretty much until the last maybe 5 chapters of the book. Every time she said or did something, I was just like, you dumb bitch, why are you doing this? Why are you worried about this right now? As annoying as she is, I think that she cares a lot about the perception of other people and what they think of her, and I understand why she feels that way. Didn't stop her from being any less fucking annoying. I don't care that she's bubbly and she likes bright colors, cool. One of my closest friends is like that, which is totally opposite of me because my color palette is pretty much, I'm literally wearing all black right now, but whatever. All of that is fine. It's just her reactions to certain things. Sometimes I would be like, this is not what's important right now. I need you to focus. But I do think she gets a little better, and I hope that in book 2 we get to see her come into her own a little more. Hopefully that happens because she did really seem to become more sure of herself at the end. So hopefully that keeps going. And then we have Hassa. I love Hassa. She's probably my favorite character. No, she's definitely my favorite character. She's the only one that didn't annoy me. She has common sense. She's very intelligent, and yeah, I really like her. So we do have a few supporting characters, I guess. John. I don't know, something about him just always felt a little fishy to me. And I was right, so not my favorite person. Yeah, I guess I'm interested to see the role he ends up playing later on because I don't really know where he stands. Lute and Fail, I liked Fail. He seems like a nice person. How the fuck he ended up married to Lute, I don't understand. Lute, I I would have liked him, but I don't know. He's just also very fucking shady. I don't know. It was a toss-up for him, but with the way things went with him, I honestly didn't really care. So then we have Uka, Anor's adopted mother. She's a bitch. She's terrible. Genuinely terrible. I hope that by the end of the series, she ends up dead. And the last person that I wrote down was Kwame. He was sort of a background character, but I really like him. He's always been very kind to both Anor and Scylla. I hope that we do get to see him more in book 2. So for the Warden's Empire, I do really like the way that the kingdom, I don't like the caste system, but I like the way that the government is sort of structured with the different wardens and disciples. So we have the Wardens of Truth, Duty, Knowledge, and Strength. And I thought it was interesting that it was broken up that way, and then we do find out the story of Anyame and how that came to be. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I also thought it was kind of funny that Loot was considered the warden of crime and that everybody kind of just accepted that. I don't necessarily think I'm a huge fan of like blood magic, but the blood work was kind of cool. I wish there was like, actually, let me see. I don't think there is. But I wish that there was like a guide for the runes so that I could visualize them more clearly. I think that would be cool. But no, there is not one in the book. So like I said, the first 85 pages of the story is Scylla high as a kite on Joba seeds and looking for more. And it's frustrating, but I understand how she got to that point considering her entire family was slaughtered. Well, family. I want to say it wasn't her fault, but it kind of was. But she was a child. She didn't know what she was doing. But the reason that it happened is because Scylla is one of the Stolen. There was a rebellion started by a group known as the Sandstorm. And about 2 decades ago, I guess, they were able to sneak into wardens' homes and switch out their children. They willingly gave up some of their children and switched them with some of the Ember children. So the Sandstorm is made up of dusters with blue blood, and the Wardens of the Empire have red blood, they're Embers. So they switched their children, left notes behind. Basically, it was like, we not only have access to y'all, but now we have your children. So a lot of the Duster children that were switched were killed, with the exception of Anor. Anor is the daughter of the Warden of Strength, but she's actually a Duster. Scylla, being one of the Stolen, we believe, well, Scylla is told that she is actually the true daughter of the Warden of Strength. Surprisingly, this did not irritate me as much as I thought it would, but there was a little bit of a love triangle. John and, well, okay. I guess I thought it was a little weird at first because John and Scylla were kind of brought up together, and originally I thought it was like in a sibling way because they kind of had the same father figure, but apparently they never really thought of it that way. So John and Scylla are a thing, and then Scylla and Anor eventually end up being a thing, but not at the same time, so I appreciate that. There was also a little bit of flirtation between Hassa and John, and I don't know if that's gonna come back, but we shall see. Aside from Scylla, John, Scylla's adopted mother, Leo, maybe Hassa, and Uka. No one knows. Well, I don't know if her grandmother knows. Nobody's supposed to know that Anor is actually a Duster because she's the daughter of the Warden. Leo, Scylla's adopted mother, is actually Anor's real mother. They don't interact at all in this book though, so I don't know if that's going to change in the future. The rebellion that they were a part of, the Sandstorm, was thought to be wiped out completely after the incident with Scylla, and Scylla was the only one who survived. And then she finds out that John survived and that he had been alive for 2 years before he actually approached her and knew that she was alive but didn't come to her. So it turns out that their father figure was not actually the leader of the Sandstorm and that someone else has kind of been pulling the reins there. John knows who this other person is, but in order for Scylla to sort of regain her membership into the Sandstorm, she needs to prove herself. So they ask Scylla to do things for them, and she's kind of using that as a way to prove herself to get back in, but also helping John so that he can enter the Actibar and become the Warden. So important things that I forgot to mention here. Scylla one night is high as hell. It's right after Leo has told her that she's the true Warden of Strength, which ends up being a fucking lie. But Scylla manages to break into Anor's room, and I know she's trained, but she's also high on drugs. And I was like, how did you get here? How did you pull this off? So Anor ends up knocking her out and locking her in her closet for a few days. and they end up having a deal. Scylla was supposed to enter the Octobar, but she missed the deadline because she was locked in Honor's closet. Honor's like, I'm gonna enter the Octobar and you're gonna help me train. And then they make a deal that Scylla will learn blood work from Honor if she helps her train. So remember, Honor is a duster. Scylla is one of the stolen, meaning that she's actually an ember, even though she has lived as a duster for all of her life. And embers are supposed to be the only ones able to blood work. So even though Honor is a duster, she uses someone else's blood so that she can blood work. Eventually, we also learn the history of this empire, where there was the ending fire that pretty much wiped everything out except for this island where they all live. However, Scylla finds a map that is torn, but it seems like there is something in the corner that's been torn out, meaning that there's more land and that there is actually something beyond the empire, which everyone for the longest time has believed is not even possible. So Honor and Scylla start to look into that a little bit, but there is very little information about anything outside of their island because obviously the wardens don't want people to know. I'm paraphrasing at this point because now that I'm thinking about it, there was a lot of information in this book, and I am glad that I annotated it because for me, at least, there's just no way that I would remember all of it. Speaking of things that I forgot to mention, first there's Gorn. She is Honor's former chambermaid, I guess, so she knows Honor's true identity, and it's her blood that Honor uses to blood work. There's also the tide wind. It occurs every night, and it's really bad. The winds become very strong, and if you get caught in it, you will die because the winds are so strong that the sand will rip the skin and flesh from your bones. The ghostings have a theory that it keeps getting longer and longer because one day it's just going to keep going and destroy everything. So when we get to the ending, we learn that number one, Leo lied. Scylla is not Uka's actual daughter, although Leo is Honor's mother. One thing that I did not see coming, I didn't see it coming, but in retrospect, I should have been able to figure it out. Lute is the head of the sandstorm. I don't know. I guess I just did not think. I don't know. I didn't see that coming at all. But thinking about it with Tano being in the Octobar, I feel like that was a big hint because he gave her the answers. So I feel like if I had been a little more focused, maybe I would have figured that out. I was glad that Honor ended up winning. I think that she has had the most character growth in this story, and even though I still think she was annoying as fuck at the beginning, I did come around to liking her a little bit more in the end, and I think that she really earned her place and has proven herself not only to herself and to everyone around her, but especially Uka. Because Scylla decided to betray the sandstorm, at the end she ends up leaving the empire because it turns out that the wardens have been lying this entire time, that there is more beyond their island. I'm really interested to see how all of that is going to shape out, because what we learn is that everyone can blood work, not just embers. The wardens' empire isn't the wardens at all. Whatever island they are on was originally inhabited by the ghostings. The embers came in, the ghostings taught them how to blood work, and then the embers used that against them, colonized the island, and forced the ghostings into servitude, which they did by also cutting out their tongues and cutting off their hands. So the ghostings have had to create their own language, and basically they did it so that the ghostings would stay silent. While they think that they accomplished that, they really haven't. The ghostings have an underground network working to get people out of the empire and to take them somewhere safe. And most importantly, we learned that the ending fire never happened. They made it up. So like I said, a lot of twists and turns, and I think that's part of the reason that I enjoyed it so much. I didn't see half that shit coming, if I'm being honest. One more thing that happened at the end that was very surprising was that Scylla manages to kill Lute, and he has yellow blood. So I don't know what that means, where he's from, if there's anybody else, if there are other colors of blood that could be a possibility. But I'm very, very intrigued, and I cannot wait to see what happens, especially with Scylla leaving the mainland. I think that we are going to learn so much more. From what Jashana has said, the world opens up more in book 2, so I'm very intrigued by that. So I did have some questions at the end of the book, as I tend to, because like I said, that was a lot. But I expect that perhaps Lute having yellow blood means that he is maybe from somewhere else, and that perhaps Scylla and John will find that out when they reach wherever they're going. I don't necessarily love that John is still alive because I don't trust him, but I guess we'll see what happens. I did wonder, because Honor is now the new disciple, but disciples don't switch over for another 10 years. I wonder if there's going to be any sort of time jump in the next book, or if we're just picking up where we left off, and if Honor is going to be able to start making the changes that she wants to yet. One thing that I found interesting and kind of odd is that all of the stolen know that they are stolen, but all of them just seemed okay with it. Like, none of them, it doesn't seem like any of them tried to find their families. I guess they wouldn't be able to for their own safety, but I don't know, it just seems weird that, yeah, we kidnapped you from your actual families and now we're training you to fight against those people, but everyone's just fine with it. I don't know. Along that same vein, granted that the Ember children who were taken were trained to sort of hate the wardens and everything, it also seems weird that the Embers were just fine with their children being killed once their little settlement had been found. I don't know, I guess nobody really has attachment to their children here. I do wonder if Honor and Leo will ever meet, since that is her biological mother. I'm definitely interested to see beyond the Empire and what we're gonna see in the other places, because I honestly don't know what to expect. I do assume that at some point maybe Scylla will come back and that Scylla and Honor will reunite, or maybe they stay separated the entire second book and then come back together in the third. I'm not sure about that. And then the last thing that I noted was that I'm just interested to see what kind of changes Honor is able to make, especially knowing that Uka will most likely be against her. Oh, if you are going to read the book, or if you have read the book and you didn't have the last chapter, the bonus chapter that follows Lute, it is the day that he becomes the warden of crime. He was an apprentice sort of to a crime lord, and there were, I think, 3 or 4 of them, right? And so Lute basically gives them a choice: stay under my rule or you die. And as we know, he likes to poison people, so that's exactly what he did. Only one of them had chosen to stay with him, and the others died. And the person who chose to stay with him was Madame Turin, who we see on and off throughout the book. So that was interesting, but I liked it. Oh, one more thing that I just thought of. I wonder what's gonna happen now with like the Gummers and anyone else who was under Lute, because he's dead. And I don't think anybody knows that at the time that it happens because they are so far away. So that'll be another interesting development in the next book. But yeah, those are all of my thoughts on the final Strife. I am really glad that I read this, so I'm really looking forward to the next book. Let me know if you have read the final Strife or if it's on your TBR. Otherwise, that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you in the next video.